Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." Hi folks, Slick Slices here. I don't know if anybody else is a fan of the work of Edgar Allan Poe and his most famous poem, The Raven, which I came to through Lou Reed doing his album of The Raven, which would be, 15 years ago or so. Anyway, why am I whittering on with this nonsense? This knife is The Raven, and this is actually the second time I made this video. The first time I was a bit hard on this knife, and then afterwards I watched it back and I thought, but that's not how I feel. I actually really like this knife. This is one of the Cheburkovs that really actually speaks to me. Cheburkov often name their knives after birds. We had the swift, I think, at one point. Here, this one is called the Voron, or in English, raven, and it's a big beast of a knife. In a way, I suppose, a bit like a raven, because it has this sleek, shiny black carbon fiber exterior. It also has a vicious looking beak here. And the reason I perhaps gave it a hard time last time was because it has one huge big, I can't say it's a fault, it's just an issue that I just don't really like, and that is on the reverse. It just looks flat. It's almost as though the cover's fallen off or something like that, which is a shame because it's still a great knife even for that. This side though is really nice. You've got this lovely crowned carbon fiber, really nicely done, very smooth, inlaid into the titanium handle. And all in all, I think that looks really great. You've then got quite a long blade. It's 110 millimeters, which is north of 4 inches. So it's a big knife, and so that side I think looks sleek and elegant, if rather large. It's hard to see somebody carrying this, certainly not in the UK, because it's more than 4 inches and it's a locking knife. But also I think it does have the look of a kind of murdery beast about it. Just to sort of give you some idea of where we are with that size. Here is my large Sebenza, and now this is the large Sebenza, not the small one, and yet it's completely dwarfed by the Raven. It's even longer than my on belay, Medford on belay. Now the Medford is a big chunky hunk of a thing. It doesn't have the same sleek elegance as the Cheburkov, but in terms of size, that's where we are. We're in the realm of big knives, and I could really see this in the hands of a Russian gangster. A chap in the Wick films that the baddie there, you could just see him carrying this knife, and being in black, it probably works well too. but it is actually a very good practical knife, and it's the sort of knife one wishes one could carry. Yes, the old self-defense thing would come up. This would make as good a self-defense knife as a knife will ever make, though I'm really not convinced that a knife is a very good self-defense weapon. You have to get in a bit too close and personal, and then you have to actually be prepared to use it, which is a bit tricky. So, as I've said, the handle's made of titanium and carbon fibre. The blade is 110mm of M390 Bowler steel. Now, I'm a big fan of M390. I know it's already becoming a bit passé with Magna Cut being out there and so forth, but M390 is a really good steel. Mind you, I still like S30V, so I'm a bit of a stick in the mud. So, on this side, like I say, it kind of has the look, compared to the other side, of being perhaps unfinished. But that's probably being a bit harsh on it, because it's actually quite nicely done. You've got a machined titanium pocket clip with just a single screw, but it's perfectly solid, just the way it's set into the handle. But that means you've really just got that screw, and you've one more here. So it's quite an elegant open design. In terms of the lock bar, we've got an insert which is both a wear insert to go against the end of the blade, and I think it also acts as an over travel stop. At least I believe it does. Not that I can actually see, but I believe it does. Then the lock bar itself is reasonably neatly cut out. I always think it's nice when you see these with a relatively slim cut. This one is better than many, but not the absolute best. But one thing I do like is that they've put the cutout for the lock bar relief on the inside. I never understand why people don't just do that routinely. Even if you go to the daddy of the frame lock, Chris Reeve, puts it on the inside, and yet so many other people seem to think they should put it on the outside, and I'd love to know what the reason for that is. There may be some technical engineering reason that makes it preferable to put it on the outside, but I think it spoils the lines of the knife. And in the end, this side of this knife did originally strike me as looking like it was just unfinished, but actually, the more I look at it, it's actually really quite sleek and purposeful. So it's definitely grown on me. Now, I'm not good with flippers, and I generally struggle with Cheburkovs, and I've struggled more than ever since my recent fall, because I've only one working hand, and when I say working, I don't really mean it. But it's not exactly the freest falling knife in the world, but the action's certainly not stiff. But let's just try flipping it and see how we get on. Now, bear in mind, if I can flick it, and okay, that was perhaps not the most convincing flick in the world, but if I can flick it, if you have a pulse, you can almost certainly flick it better than I can. This one has a really nice, smooth action. Quite often, it's easy to call Cheburkovs the poor man's Cheburkovs, but this is a case where this knife stands up very much on its own, and the fact it's half the price of a Cheburkov is all in its favour, because I think it stands up very well on its own. If we look at some of the other knives that we've had in this particular batch, a couple of fairly pricey Spydercos in particular, this is far and away above even the more expensive of those. I would, in my opinion. Yeah, maybe it's not quite Cheburkov, but it's well, I believe last time this was for sale, and it's not really available at the moment. It was about $600, which is you can get a Cheburkov for not much more than that, but you're getting the very basic stuff. This one is really quite nice. It's a M390 steel, full titanium clip, carbon fiber handle scales. It sort of bothers me that I really like this side of the knife. In a way, it almost reminds me of the Rockstead Higo that I reviewed right back at the beginning of this high-end knife series, which had a desert ironwood, but it was inlaid in a similar way to this, only it was on both sides. It was a liner lock, but it had a good thick liner, and that just appealed to me. This one, if this was like this on both sides, I think it would be an absolute winner. All it would need is obviously to be a liner lock. As it is, it's not a small knife, but it's a sort of sleek sort of knife. It fits really nicely in the hand. Unfortunately, being left-handed, I'm always going to see this side of it, which is a bit unfortunate because this side looks so much better. But it's a good, well-made knife. Fits the hand well. If you've got big hands, this is brilliant. And I'm sure it is a powerful enough knife to do literally any task you would want with it, and several tasks that you might not want. As I say, I'm not one for believing a knife would be a self-defense weapon. It really isn't. It's a weapon of attack if it's used at all. In my estimation, it's difficult to parry with it. You have to get in close and get your hits in first. So I would never carry this as a self-defense weapon. But if you were carrying it in a tactical sense, this would make a really, really good knife. I suspect if you opened it in the canteen at work, little Mary from accounts would probably pee herself and jump on the table, which is, particularly in this country, it would be a disaster. But I like it. It's a really smart knife, and I'd be sad to see it go. I've given it, as I say, I reviewed it already, and I gave it a really quite hard time, and then I realised that I was being overly harsh on it. I was just holding that sort of plain side against it, but actually it's not plain, it's just minimalist. Now if this had a plain titanium scale on the other side, I probably wouldn't have even commented on it, but there we are. So, like I say, this is the Cheburkov Voron or Raven, and I think I've had all I need to say, so quoth the slick slicer, nevermore.